Hey guys, just want to share a few things with you briefly. Try to encourage you to help you a little bit if I can. I shared a quote from a book that Cherie has loaned me for several years. Uh, Author is Joseph Good, extensive teacher and writer on the temple. Um, and in it, he says that he made a statement, and I quoted this on Facebook, and immediately a pastor friend of mine just went totally berserk. And because the concept of what we study is not something that they're able to grasp at all. But I want to read this to you, and then probably talk about a couple other things. Here's what he says. Today, late in the 20th century, so that tells you how old this book is. Late in the 20th century, living thousands of miles from the Middle East, our perspective of Bible times and doctrines are often perverted from their original meanings. And that's what he went berserk over, because he feels like the church has got it right. The second coming of the Messiah, Yeshua, and the establishment of his earthly kingdom is a subject that is commonly written about. It is spoken of from pulpits across the nation, but seldom put in its original Jewish setting. And I maintained for some time before I left the ministry, and I believe it still to this day, that our biggest problem with the Bible today in churchianity, and I think if we understood the Bible from a Hebraic, not Jewish, but Hebraic context, and understanding that the entire Bible is a Hebraic, Jewish, Israeli, etc. book, not just the Old Testament, the New Testament as well. If we understand that, we have a better grasp. But the fact of the matter is that most people, Christians, believe the Old Testament is for the Jews and the New Testament is for the church. If we understood this book, we would never even refer to ourselves as the church, knowing what that word means. It does not mean ecclesia in the Greek, or the called out assembly. That's what that word is translated as. Somehow we allowed it to be translated as church, which actually means circus, and even worse than that. Now, think about this. Joseph Good says that 80% of the Torah is about the temple. Maybe even more than that. And he also says in a video I was watching that if a person, a preacher, a pastor, a teacher, etc., if they don't have a firm grasp of the Torah and the ideology of the temple that is found in it, and a grasp of the feasts of Yahweh, then they have no hope whatsoever of being able to accurately teach this book. Now, does that mean that they're false teachers or they're of the devil? No, not necessarily. However, I do believe that some are. But I do believe that if we had a better grasp, a better understanding, we would not be tolerating the false teachers that we tolerating. And it's funny to me that there are some people, mistakenly so, that even in the Messianic movement, Hebraic roots, etc., are still trying to defend Joel Osteen and Jesse Duplantis and Joyce Meyer and on and on and on, saying, "No, we need to be careful. Don't touch my anointed. Do my prophets no harm." Like, remember, Yeshua said, "Beware of wolves in sheep's clothing." But one of the things that comes about in all of this is to understand that the grave misunderstanding that the history, and so many people don't know history, the early history of the assembly, that they allow themselves to be fooled into thinking that the Bible, the New Testament, specifically the book of Acts and then forward, actually changes the Sabbath, it changes the feasts, and all these things are found therein. However, if one does a simple study of history, one finds that none of that stuff is true whatsoever. And then you start backtracking and you find, and basically they lay all of this at Paul's feet. And one night in 2014, I sat down with a family that were upset because of the teachings that I was doing on the Torah, etc. And I told them, I said, "Well, do you not know that the Bible, that Yeshua said, whoever teaches people to observe and obey the commandments shall be considered the greatest, and whoever teaches people to disobey the commandments will be considered the least." And the man looked at me and he says, "Yeah, but Paul." And so we understand that all of this lawlessness is generally laid at Paul's feet. However, when we have a correct understanding of the history of the early assembly all the way up into the 300 AD, you understand then that what we've been taught is wrong. So if the Father is willing, I'll delve into this a little bit and try to maybe share some things. And hopefully my schedule is going to change a little bit more and I can be a little bit better equipped. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and be blessed.